All right, welcome back to Saturday, continuing the F-22. Motivation problems today for sure. Been trying to get this whole truck thing dealt with, and it's just aggravating. It sucks that I gotta get another truck altogether because I wasn't planning on it. My truck was still a great truck. Diesel with only 49,000 miles on it, so the motor was just kind of breaking in, and I needed to get myself an everyday driver this year, plus my kid a vehicle, so that's what kind of sucks about it. So it's just aggravating, and dealing with them, trying to haggle and get a better price on a new truck, and just having to have another car payment when I didn't want one. So it's kind of just aggravating, motivates, or a motivation killer. I almost just sat in the office and shot people in the face on computer games. It's a good stress reliever, but that don't sound all that great, does it? Anyways, but yeah, motivation today is kind of kicking my butt, but I'm trying to get there. Some weeks are just those kind of weeks, and shit from the military don't help sometimes. I have friends I lost I think about occasionally, and it kind of bums you out, a little bit, and just the shit you go through in the military. Everybody's different how they handle stuff, and I remember, give me 1 second, let me grab my pants. I'll show you guys. I remember when I was retiring, everybody has to go and do your VA stuff, and then they send you, you do a physical, and you have to talk to a psychiatrist. That's just part of it. It's essentially just like out processing the military these days. But I remember the psychiatrist asked me, if I thought, it was different, and I'm like, well, that's kind of a loaded question, because everybody handles stuff differently, and just the fact of going from your comfort zone, being in your own country, deploying to another country that is a combat zone, and just going from there to getting to that new location, and especially first time deployments and stuff like that, and then even if you're what we call, I hate to say this, a fobbit, and it's not their fault. They just have an MOS that doesn't have them kind of going outside the wire. Even if they don't go outside the wire and don't really see anything, just the isolation. You go to work every day, and then you go back and you sit in your bed, and just that isolation can mess with some people. So I think any deployment changes somebody, whether it's can be positive, can be negative, but everybody changes. Plain and simple, and you have to be careful when you say those kind of things, especially when you're in aviation. So, but yeah, I still have my bad days. I think about some people. One particular that kind of got me more so than the rest. They're all, none of them are good. You lose friends in aviation over the years, whether it be combat or accident related, and it sucks. But one of them in particular bothers me the most, and I think it was just the one I had at Campbell, because it was a younger, one of the two aviators. I knew them both. They're both in my company. It was my helicopter, because I was the maintenance test pilot for the company. And one of them was a kid that I actually met when he was in flight school. Gave him his basic combat skills check ride when I was teaching, and then fast forward to when I was at Campbell. He was there, and he was an aspiring test pilot, and I flew a lot with him, and he was in my front seat a lot and did test flights and stuff. So I got to know the kid really well, and he was wanting to be a test pilot, so I was kind of mentoring, helping him, pulling for him to make pilot in command and all this stuff, and got to know him more so after the deployment, and he was just it was a good guy. He kind of gave this shirt off his back kind of a person, And then, the accident happened. That kind of took its toll on me, and I think at that point I was kind of done with the military. I was at probably 16 years at that point, 16, 17 years. No, 17, 18 years, kind of in that frame. And then I left there and had 2 years left when I went to Fort Hood for my last duty assignment, and then I retired out of Fort Hood. But those kind of things will kind of get on you. And it's not like I'm always that way. It's just something will trigger it, like shit that pops up on my Facebook page, You see that stuff and it's like, it brings back memories, good, bad, And that's what I miss about the military. I don't miss the Army per se, but I miss the people. I occasionally miss flying, but it's like any other thing that when it's a job, it's not. And there's a lot of stuff that comes with being a pilot in the military that people just don't realize. It's a lot of work, and all the other crap that you got to deal with is what ruins it, honestly. Because it was great from the time I closed that canopy to the time I opened it. It was good times. Not always good times, but it was the other stuff outside that sucks. And was doing the whole airline thing. Little rebel scum here, I was doing that stuff with those guys, which is a great organization, and they kind of do some great stuff and help the military get into the airline side of the house. But it just wasn't something that really, I was a gun bunny. Attack. So that I didn't want to fly people around. I'm not going to say taxi driver or bus driver. That's what we used to joke around with the 60 and 47 guys, but that's just what we did. We fucked with each other. That wasn't my thing. So anyways, I'll shut up with that crap. And get onto the build. So I did open up these. There's once you get the servo arm on and you put these on, they just slide in. There's a little lollipop channel here. So you push this bottom lever and you push it in, and then you release, and it kind of clips down on this. Seems to work okay. I've never been a fan of it. It seemed like they could come up with a better way of doing it, but it works. But I always make sure I put some grease in there around that mechanism just to help it stay locked versus opening under friction, kind of a thing. But when you go extremes on your throws, it will hit like right back here on both the top. So you got to take and cut it. Man, ceiling cassettes make some weird. The AC units make some weird noises at times, but you have to open it up to kind of let the back side of the servo arm. And that's going to be dependent upon the servo arm you have. The stock one always hits top and bottom, so I just go ahead and open up this area here. It's not structural. It's just a real thin fiberglass layup around this area. So I just open it up that way I get full throw and I'm not hitting. So I'll kind of zoom that in there. You can kind of see. Maybe this one. Let's see if this one helps any better. Yeah, that one shows a little better because of the white glue. And if you ever need to remove the little metal bracket there to, like if it gets worn or something, you can replace it. So those are done, and the stab servos are all in defrost mode, I guess. So if anybody is familiar with mini splits, like really familiar with them, these things go into what they call a defrost mode every so often, and it lasts for a few minutes and then the unit cuts back on and everything. And I know that's normal, but I wasn't expecting it to do it as much. And the ceiling cassettes, which are the units that go up in the ceiling and sit flush, versus the standard wall units, seem to do it a lot more. And I don't know, I was worried maybe we didn't have enough refrigerant, or if we had too much refrigerant, because a buddy of mine came up and we measured it all out, and we actually ended up having to add some more because we I guess we didn't have enough because we didn't measure the lines properly. Because it comes pre-charged with a certain amount for a certain length of copper lines, but anything over that you have to, every perforate you add per foot you add so many ounces. And we measured all that and did it, and did the scale and everything. So we're pretty sure that the refrigerant's right, but I'm just kind of curious as to how often they should go into defrost mode, because it seems like it does it more so when it's warmer, which I would think it would be opposite, because it's warmer outside, those coils out there, and on the outside you don't freeze up as much. But it seems to be high humidity and cooler temps that it does it. So it'll be interesting to see how it works in the summertime. I haven't actually got to run it in cool mode yet, other than when we were trying to test it. So, but so I'm actually gonna go ahead and do the Halo. What am I at time-wise? Oh, 10 minutes. That's not too bad. Sorry if I'm being a long-winded, but hey, if you guys know something about these mini splits, I have a Cooper and Hunter one. It's a 48K outside unit. These are two 12K units on this side, and there's two 18K units on that side. Those are wall units. These are the ceiling cassettes. And I actually have one of the ceiling cassettes that's bad right now, so I actually have a new PCB coming. Hopefully that fixes it. But if you know something about them and all that stuff and how that works, post in the comments. Let me know what you think. Do I need to get somebody out here to check it? My buddy's done a bunch of them, and it's not rocket science, but he doesn't live here locally, so I can't have him come over and bug his butt all the time. He lives like 4 or 5 hours away. So. Anyway, so I'm gonna do the rudder servos next versus the thrust vector, because they're simple. They'll go in like a few minutes, but these are gonna take a while. And like I had already mentioned, they're direct drive units. Let me open them up here. I love how they label them, that's great, but it's Chinese and I don't read Chinese. I guess I could Google it, but they have these little steel direct drive units. They go in on top of the servo, just bolt in. They're for the spline, goes in the bottom, and then like I said, it's got that T-ball joint that sits in the top that's glued in the rudder. So the problem is when you put these things in, the angle, I don't know why they didn't do this. You'd think they're having to draw this stuff up in CAD anyways, that they could just make these mounts to where they're the proper angle. I don't understand that. But, so the problem you run into is, because it goes in like this, it's at an angle like this, but it's also angled like this. You know, you've got two angles you're working with, and you really can't get in there and see it very well. You take some of the hashes off, you can kind of look and see it. And even once you get it as close as to where it moves freely and it doesn't bind, the shaft is still not straight into the servo drive unit. It's off a little bit, which is why they went with a kind of universal joint type thing. But it's just a pain because you got to shim it this way, and then you got to shim it this way, and then sometimes you just have to put a washer on one corner versus all the way across, which I don't like because, you know, that just puts stress on these servo mounting arms when they don't have like a flush mount. But it's what you have to do to make it work. So they had an issue with the first ones where they were not properly sized. I think it was the actual ball drive on, because I ended up measuring and sending them the data. The drive units were fine. It was just one side of the rudders, the little T-pin that runs across, was smaller than the other. So it allowed slop, and that's when they had the rudders blowing off and failing. But they fixed it, and hopefully that's not an issue with this one. So, but that's kind of what I'm about to do, because it's gonna take a while to do this, so I'm not gonna do a video, like a live video of that, which is kind of why I talked longer on this one. But I will maybe do some shorter videos, like once I get one in and I get the other one mounted how it needs to be, I may do a video kind of showing you how things kind of go in and everything. Like I said, nothing crazy here as far as hardware. You got one drive unit per side, 4 wood screws, and I don't know why this one has the rubber grommets in it, because it's marked as a rudder. from my last one, and I don't typically use rubber grommets in these. But yeah, nothing crazy with this, just the drive unit. Use the servo screw to hold it on, and yeah, that's it. And then like I said, whatever way you want to shim it, I usually will do, just depends on how bad it is or what I need. I'll either do ply blocks, or I'll use those same carbon fiber servo holder that you get with helicopters that I used on the, what did I use on? Flaps or the slats? One of the two I used to kind of, it was the leading edge flap servo. Yeah, those carbon plates that I use to kind of pinch down on and hold the servo. I use those too, so, or just washers, whatever it takes. But that is, and you do have to open up a little here. This one wasn't too bad. I can actually get the servo in, I think. But if you can't, you have to open this little rectangular box. But be careful. What I always do is I put the rudder on, and then I take a pencil and I outline, go on the outside, because if you go cutting too much, it'll extend past where the rudder covers up. So you have an opening. So be very careful of that. And it's usually, I think it's this side that it does, like right in this, it's actually cracked. Oh, nice. Yeah, it's cracked right there. So I think it's this side that if you're not too careful, because it kind of tapers down. If you get too wild on your cuts, it'll extend past the edge of the rudder and you'll see it. So just be careful of that. Like I said, I put the rudder on, I take a pencil, and then I just mark around and then take the rudder back off, and just don't go past that when you're opening up to get your servo in, unless you have to. So, all right, so that's good for this video. Again, sorry I get long-winded talking, and sorry for my being, the motivation issues this week. It's just, it is what it is. Life, yeah, I ain't gonna go there. Let's not even go there. Trying to be more positive, but yeah. Be nice to your vets, because I get it. Most of them don't see stuff, but some vets do go through some stuff, and suicide rates are crazy high. It's crazy how many that's actually they get. Shoot, when I was in, I ended up, kind of a story here. I was on, my unit was in the field, and for whatever reason I didn't go, and I got stuck doing duty, 24-hour duty, and I was a W4 at that time, which is typically not normal. Like, I was like, well, they're in the field, I will pull the duty just to help out. And I remember kids coming in the morning, because it's getting close to time for me to swap out, and they're coming in to do PT. And I remember hearing, I was kind of around the corner, and two soldiers come in and said, hey, there's somebody that hung themselves over here in the woods. And I'm like, and my ears perked up. I was like, what? So I kind of poked my head around, and I'm like, because I was the officer in charge, so I was like, are you serious? And they're like, yes. And I'm like, oh, Lordy. So I'm like, all right, well, show me. So we walked, because there used to be a running track that out beside where the soldier barracks were. They kind of went through the backwoods, and they would all go out. That's where they would make their runs and stuff. And I walked out there, and they showed me where it was, and I kind of just walked through the woods, and I thought it was a dummy, like somebody hung up a dummy from a distance. But as I got closer, yeah, some soldier had committed suicide and hung himself out in the tree line there. So it's a real thing, man, and it doesn't have to be some soldier that was an infantry and got blown up, or his friends that all got blown up. It could just be some pack clerk that's struggling. So watch out for your soldiers, man. They do a lot for the country, whether you realize it or not. And most people don't realize. I mean, just the crap you go through on rotations, deployment, man. It's a lot. So you guys take it easy. Again, sorry to keep getting off on that, but yeah, if you know somebody, just always ask. You guys have a good one, and like I said, I'll get another video out on this here in a little bit. Cheers.